Britain, the 8th most popular tourist destination. In 2009, she was affected by a global economic slowdown.
The Dow fell a record 18%, and global markets spiraled into a free fall.
Still a chance that next week could be another rough one.
The turmoil in the credit and financial markets is now showing up in the wider economy.
It may be trite to say this, but there is no one country that can solve this crisis on its own. And it's a far bigger financial crisis because of how it's developed over the last few months. The word credit is derived from a Latin word, credo, which actually means belief or trust. And this is a crisis not just of credit, it's a crisis of trust in our financial institutions.
However, today, she still falls within the top 10 economies. In October 2013, Great Britain had a record-breaking 2.95 million visitors, which was up 23% from the previous year. Visiting aside, what of immigration? Well, the Office of National Statistics reported that people that immigrated to Britain in June 2013 stood at 503,000. 242,000 were attributed by non-EU citizens. This was in fact down from the previous year, 2012. It can be argued that the decrease of non-EU citizens to Britain has a lot to do with the anti-immigration sentiment in the British media, feeding the growth of support for anti-immigration in the British political system. Ghanaian nationals are among other African nationals that make up the non-EU citizen immigration figures. It is evident why Ghanaian nationals for years have chosen Great Britain as that place where they can benefit from an education system or the opportunities in the British labour market. The earliest record of a Ghanaian in Britain can be traced back to here in London, the mid-18th century, an African abolitionist. Kwabena Otuba Kugo Ano. Kwabena was born in Ajumako, a town located in the central region of Ghana. Captured at the age of 13, he was transported to Grenada, where he worked on plantations. Kwabena was freed and ended up in Britain after being purchased by an English merchant. Kwabena became heavily involved in the active movement to end slavery. It is confirmed that he wrote a book, Thoughts and Sentiments on the Evil of Slavery. In this series of Africa Probe, I won't be looking at Ghana's role in the triangular slave trade. However, with Ghanaians being one of the largest African communities in Britain, I'll be exploring Ghanaian migration. In the first few episodes of Africa Probe, I'll be speaking to both Ghanaian nationals and British-born Ghanaians, hearing about their experiences of living in a country like Great Britain, hearing their views on how they have achieved success or how they're striving for success, hearing the thoughts of Ghanaian nationals on the subject of going back home to Ghana, and not forgetting the thoughts of British-born Ghanaians on whether they view Ghana as home enough so to migrate there. And lastly, what about the senior members from a variety of Ghanaian community organisations? What are their perceptions, observations of the Ghanaians they serve here in Britain? My first stop in this journey leads me towards south of the river, Forest Hill. Forest Hill is a suburb and a ward of south-east London, located in the London Borough of Lewisham. The name Forest Hill derived from the forest with a big hill. This is Forest Hill High Street. It's quite a small high street, but what lies behind it is a Ghanaian hidden gem. Seems like not much. What could possibly be so special about this small business centre? Well, behind Unit 4 is a kenkey factory, formerly known as Labadi Kitchens. Kenkey, also known as dokono, is a Ghanaian staple dish eaten throughout Ghana. Labadi Kitchens produces Accra kenkey. This type of kenke is usually served with a protein side, such as fish, prawns, or turkey tail. Along with any of these sides, the kenke is accompanied with a red pepper sauce, made of grounded chili pepper, onions, and tomatoes. It can also be accompanied with a black pepper sauce, locally called shito. This factory is owned by Mrs. Susanna Abam Watson. But before we go through to meet her, we need to ensure that we're up to health and safety standards. Now we're ready. Let's go.
My name is Susanna Abam Watson. I'm Ghanaian and I'm from Labadi. The process of making kenke is first corn done with water and salt. You cook it until it's well cooked. And then you mix it with a fresh corn and put them in corn heads and steam it until it cooks. I have a passion for food, and opportunity came on my way, and I decided to grab it and set my own food business. The factors that enable me to do this level is God, hard work, and good customers. He is my rock, my pillar, and he have taken me to this journey. When I first got the premises that I was about to do my food business, 2 years on the line, the landlord came in and they want to develop the place. So after I've set everything for the food premises, I have to pack up all my things, put them in the storage. That set me back. Go back, start looking for another place. Before, when I got a place, I have to set the place up to food standard agency before they allowed me to carry on do whatever I wanted to do. In me, I'm a very hardworking woman. And since I've been here, I haven't seen her like Aldo not working. And I like challenge. So that's helped me a lot to push further to get success where I am today. And that motivates me to push myself up to that standard, to be a successful in England. If I'm in Ghana, I won't do kenke business because kenke business is a strict business that everyone does it. So, but I would love to open a restaurant, and being because I'm hardworking, I'll push myself to that level. Great Britain means a lot to me, and it have helped me to achieve whatever I have achieved, especially mentally, physically, emotionally, everything I've achieved. I've learned a lot, and it have moved me to next level, and I've seen what is life. So it means a lot to me, and I respect it. If I would give the advice to anyone to come in this country, well, first, it's not easy in this country. You have to have passion to come to this country first, to work hard, because there's nothing easy in this country. And it's good. I won't stop anyone wants to come into this country. I've got my children, my grandchildren here, and to go back for good. I can't see myself, but I would love to go spend some time over there, come back, spend some time with the kids, grandchildren, and go back until the day. But to go back, I would say no. Yeah, what I've seen is lawless country. Nobody obey the law. But here, the law, you have to worship the law. And once you do that, you don't have problem with them. I don't think they do enough for people to go back home, because the country has been like whom you know. If you know anybody there that one of the top people, they might help you to get a job or do whatever you're supposed to do or get, So that is the problem. But like here, when you come in, whatever situation you find out yourself, you can still got something going on for you. But over there, I don't think so. And it's a bit hard.
As I stand and watch Mrs. Watson's corn dough cook, I can't help reflect on her story, a story that has made me pause and think. Think about how one's humble beginnings, and in Miss Watson's case, it all beginning in Labadi, Accra, can take a turn for the better as a result of what Britain has to offer. Mrs. Watson is proof that prosperity in Britain can be a tangible reality for a Ghanaian migrant. I must hurry, as I need to travel further south, about 30 minutes away, to another destination where my next interviewee awaits. From listening to the thought-provoking experiences of Mrs. Watson in Forest Hill to Wallington, a town situated in the borough of Sutton, this town forms part of Greater London. Just over Wandle River is ER Logistics, a successful storage solutions company owned by Mr. Emmanuel Kwame Asaidu. Mr. Asaidu has built up his company over a 12-year period. Going from strength to strength, his company offers professional storage solutions to both the commercial and private sector. Mr. Asaidu, thank you for meeting with me. Can you just tell me where you're from in Ghana and also how long you've lived in Great Britain?
My village I come from is a place called Amumfram Wirinche, which is a few miles from Kibi. My father's from a place called Tumfa, which is a Chimakropong. 1962, my mother and father left Ghana, and we lived in Scotland for a while. And when they left in 1966 to come back here, we stayed there and had an education in Glasgow because my father likes Scottish people. So I was almost about 18 months when I was there. I don't remember anything.
Were they Scottish foster parents?
Yes, the Scottish family. So I've got two families. I've got a Scottish family and a Ghanaian family.
Okay, so what was it like growing up in Scotland?
Difficult. It was very difficult because when you're an individual, different colour. Every person in the school is Scottish, apart from myself. There's a few Irish people, but mostly I stuck out like a sore thumb because I was only a black boy. Of course, I hadn't come in contact with black people, so it was a lot of kind of testing the water, how people do the test to see how far they can. It was basically difficult, mostly fighting all the time.
Did you find that hard? Was as if you were struggling with your identity?
Yes, I did, because I didn't know much about Africa, Ghana, or where I came from. So only what you learn at school and things like that. So I wasn't, because mother and father didn't see them maybe once a year. It was very difficult.
How did you connect with your Ghana heritage?
It's my father. My father is a very traditionalist, so when I went to Ghana when I was 17, there's a main reason why my foster mother died. So I actually my father came over and I had to come back because he seen an opportunity for me to come back and get involved with the business. So he came one day and he said, the business was beer distributor. We distributed beer in Accra and Ho in Kafodra. That's what we did. So my father had the company called Asidi Brothers, so he just wanted me to get involved. And I came over here. It was very difficult at first because my mother didn't want me to come. I didn't really have an identity because my identity was Scottish.
Can you comment on some of the barriers that you think Ghanaians face upon arriving in a country like Great Britain, or even somewhere like Scotland?
Being in Scotland is difficult because they're not used to seeing a black face of kind of like in a position of authority. But being in Scotland, coming down to London, it's easier because I don't think there's any barriers. I think the world's your oyster when you come to London because it's such a metropolitan, different mixes of races, people, and also you become anonymous. I don't look at short term. A lot of Ghanaians look at short term and go back home to show off the fruits of their labour. And it's always short term because if you don't have something strong and work at it and make it, yes, you can grow on it, and then it doesn't take 2 years or 3 years. It can take almost a lifetime. But I think over like a business, if a businessman is not in for, if he hasn't got a good track record over the 10 years, that means they're not really in it for the long term. You've got to, everything is so, well, I believe that Ghanaians, everything's physical. You have to, they see, they want to buy. I think a company is, it's like another entity. It's like a child. You have to nurture that child, bring it up, let it understand. But it's the same with companies, it's the same way. So you might go off in the wrong way, but you have to really back on it, get onto the right track and make things work. If you want to make things work, everything does it. Even you can just look at Obama, how he's done. So I don't think there's any barriers. It's personal issues that cause barriers. So you have to open everything. For instance, I've got Indians working with employ. I've got Japanese I employ. I've got Ugandan. I've got all sorts, a mix of people.
What's great about Great Britain, on the whole?
Great Britain, I think there's no restrictions here. You can do anything if you put your mind to it. There's no really any restrictions. It depends on your attitude. You can take certain roads to kind of achieve what you want to do, or what you want to be. But I think I just think there's opportunities there all the time. But the only problem is you have to recognise the opportunities. The UK everything's open, everything's there. If somebody sees you and is sincere, they'll help you.
So you mentioned earlier that you spent a number of years in Ghana.
Yeah.
Can you just comment a little bit more on your experience of Ghana and why you're not a resident of Ghana still?
Well, it can go different ways, but mostly Ghanaians have got an attitude, extended family. My family, I'm the generation who just come out of when Rawlings changed all the inherit from your mother's side, which is a Akan way of doing things, you inherit from your mother. So what's happened is my father wasn't that way of thinking. So, but my father didn't think that way because he was more European. He's been to Switzerland, been all over Europe and America, so he knew how people thought. So he tried to change things, but without upsetting the family. But it's kind of, the family traditions kicked in, and I saw that remaining in Ghana is going to be difficult. I don't think I'll settle in Ghana. I will make a home in Ghana.
You would?
Yes, I'll make a home, but I won't settle there because that's not something. I've got too much Scottish in me. I've been away from there so long. I like Ghana. Ghanaians are really kind of happy people. But I would never maybe 3 months at a time, 6 months at a time, max. Sometimes you get there long, you just have to leave and then go and it's the same here. I've got so much family here, so much friends, brought up there, school friends, but also a lot of friends in Ghana who I've met over the years. But once you leave there, at first they start asking you, can you send over this, send over that, send over that. So I tend not to get too close to Ghanaians, but that also stems from my father, who, my parents who kind of said, don't take certain friends because they're always looking for one thing. They always want an opportunity for them to move forward rather than everybody wants to step over you to get to what you've got. As he keeps on saying, but I want to live as many places in the world as possible. Too many brown and others going into top drawers and nothing getting done. So basically, a lot of people give up. They start that transition over to Ghana, but when they get to a certain point, there's too many barriers.
Speaking with Mr. Saido at length has changed my position. Although on paper I initially assumed that Mr. Seydu would be a little somewhat distant from his Ghanaian identity, as the result of being brought up in Glasgow at an early age, it's completely far from the truth. After our discussion, I found that Mr. Seydu is indeed aware of his cultural identity, and that any distance from his cultural identity appears to be out of choice rather than circumstance. Mr. Seydu's cultural identity is evident and takes place firmly in his company's logo, the Sankofa Adinkra symbol. This symbol speaks volumes, and I can definitely see how Mr. Seydu's past has not only guided him in enabling him to create a successful future for himself, but also given him wisdom. It is this wisdom that makes him not shy away from the fact that a permanent future in Ghana is not something that he has a desire for. The day will soon be over, so I must start heading towards west of London, where my final interviewee in this episode awaits. So I've left South London and I'm now in West London, Brentford. We are 10 minutes away from the famous Botanic Gardens in Kew, usually referred to as Kew Gardens. The person I'm about to meet is an 84-year-old Ghanaian national, and in my opinion, his contribution to Ghana, to Africa over 6 decades is nothing short of incredible. This man is Mr. James Banner, a pioneering photographer who is truly a master of his field. Mr. Banner was born in 1929 in what was known as the Gold Coast. He started his career as a photographic journalist at the tender age of 20. Ever Young Photographic Studio was situated in Accra, Jamestown, and owned by Mr. Banner. He attracted a number of clients, and just to name a few, the first president of Ghana, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, Pan-Africanist, politician, Dr. J.B. Dankwa, the last British governor of the Gold Coast, Sir Charles Arden Clarke, the Duchess of Kent, the American Vice President Richard Nixon, and the legendary boxer Muhammad Ali. Undoubtedly, I want to hear about Mr. Banner's achievements and overcome barriers, but I'm really intrigued to find out about what it was like living in the Gold Coast, the mood of the time, and how the tone of the country changed as she became Ghana in 1957. Mr. Banner, please tell us where you're from in Ghana, and also how long have you been in Great Britain?
I'm from Accra. I'm from Jamestown in Accra. And I'm a Ghan. I've been here since the end of 1994. But before then, I'd lived here all through the 60s. Right. Before then, I came in 1959 and went back the beginning of 70. So the whole of 1960, I was here.
Mm-hmm. And then from 94 to today?
Yes, and then from the end of 94 to now.
So as a young man that grew up in the British colony, can you comment on what life was like back then?
During the pre-colonial days, my time was in the 30s and the 40s, I would say. Life to us, or to the young man, was just normal and pleasant. Mm-hmm. We had school, we had all the things that more or less we needed. If we didn't get anything, we didn't know about it, but what we knew, we got. Our fathers going to offices and working, and we were going to school, playing football, and being proud of the British Empire.
So you came to Britain at the beginning of the 60s. Can you think back to that time and maybe comment on any barriers that you actually faced back then, if any, and how did you overcome those?
I was lucky in a way that I met Ghanaian friends here who sort of guided me or embraced me in a way, and luckily it led on to English friend who was a lecturer already in photography. So it helped me, you know. So I lived in a different circle altogether, not even in the Ghanaian circle. I moved into another circle. So I didn't have many, you know, say...
Racist encounters?
Not that much. Not it wasn't there, but I didn't look for it.
I know what you mean.
Yes.
But you're saying you never looked for it, and
I didn't bother anybody at all. Anybody who showed a sign of that, I put it down to ignorance. And if I get the chance to educating you, I'll let you know where I come from.
Would you say Britain has changed much at all, in your opinion?
In my opinion, I think there's been a lot of change.
In what sense?
A lot of change. Either we are taking things for granted, or because of the influx of people from other countries, possibly being preferred by the English to the African countries or African nationals. Because of that, things have changed tremendously, more or less not to our advantage, I would say. And I would put in that even we feel that, you know, those who are now in control are young boys. See, because when I came, Churchill was here, you know, and the cabinet were all old people, more experienced.
So if you had to give any advice to our fellow Ghanaians back home who are planning to have a life here in Great Britain, what would that advice be?
This is a very difficult question. Not difficult, but hyper something, we call it. Does anybody need to come here and have a life here? I doubt it. You know, when we can have life in Ghana by making the conditions there suitable or conducive to we get independent. But we've been independent for 57 years and we don't seem to have made the grounds to make our own country attractive. And we still look at the other side of the river to say that, oh, the grass is greener. At the moment, Eastern countries, natives or citizens are full of this place. You know, this place is full of them. And there is that competition. You know, some time ago when I came, I found a few Ghanaian bus drivers. But today, I can't find any. And if we'll be subjected to cleaning all the time, you know, if anybody will come and not get a job and he'll be forced to go and clean, I don't think it's good for the person to live at home, leave Ghana at all. Somebody will say, oh, you've done it, you know, you've had your share, you don't want anybody to get it. But that's wrong. Because from my experience, I've done it two ways. There should be a way of creating the living conditions, the standard, even the standards, right for Ghanaians to be able to be proud of Ghana, live in Ghana and be proud of Ghana. See, but some people are not proud of their countries. Of course, you don't need to hold the Ghanaian passport to be proud of it. You can hold a British passport and still want to go and help Ghana. And that is what I fight for. If not, it will become a question of if you can't beat them, join them. Then you change your attitude to how the country is. You see, which is unfortunate. But I hope that that's where the Ghanaian always falls on God. God will provide. But we should work hard ourselves and not rely on God all the time. If we find the means, how to find solutions to our own problems, right from the home. Somebody asked me, but what is stopping you from coming home and living here? And I laughed. The basic is that cover the drains, cover the gutters, provide pavements, and I'll come because I like to walk. I'm afraid of the gutters. I'm afraid, and where there is no pavement, you have to go on the road, on the street, and that's where you fight the lorries. That's the basic, nothing else.
How much of the Nkrumah spirit has been lost in us today?
Quite a lot, but Nkrumah spirit is coming back. You get the chance to read, and Nkrumah wrote some books. There are books that have led, so at least you didn't see the change. He wanted to be a dictator. He wanted to be the ruler of Africa, and so on and so forth. That ambition that he showed, that was what was used in bringing him down. This is something that will raise Ghana. It's the Nkrumah spirit. When you look at the things he did, I wasn't a political fanatic. I was just a journalist or newspaper photographer going around taking pictures, even though I had my own ideas. But I still know and have kept some of the ideals of Nkrumah, which I can't compare it to what any African or any Ghanaian has done. And always is there, when you think of the road from Tema to bypass and directly to Accra. I remember sometimes somebody would say, why do you do this when we can get the old road through Labadi and Christiansburg and Osu and get to Accra? But why do you spend money there? When he was building the arch at Osu, he said, this can build a hospital. Why do you spend money to do this? They are minor things, and they would do. Nobody has done anything since Nkrumah. Nobody has done anything significantly, anything that will match whatever Nkrumah did. How he went through to get the Akosombo Dam accepted and get funding from America to do it. Nobody has done anything like that. It's not that we are praising Nkrumah, but you do something too, either with your power to rule or the responsibility to serve your country. Serve and show something. That is what I'm for. If you don't create, you must imitate. If you don't bring new ideas, preserve the old ones, so that others can stand on it and learn and do something creative or for the country. See? So whatever people would say about Nkrumah, I have said it, that is, call it charismatic. You may hate him or you may have heard something and may not like him. But if you stand in front of him and he speaks, he gives you a lecture, you will change. Or you won't get any answer to back your hate of him. I have met him. I've met him. And I must be somebody too in his eyes. Otherwise, he won't send for me to come and take photographs in the castle. That is an honor. First, when I was asked to go and do the job, I said, how much am I going to be paid? And then the minister came to my studio, and he asked me, look, what do you mean? We, the head of state, or Nkrumah wants you to come. You are asking how much you will pay. Something like, is it because you think you can't be paid or you won't be paid? And I kept quiet and went and did the assignment. You see, so I knew him and he knew me. I think everybody should try to encourage or to bring that idea into everybody's head, that you don't live forever in somebody's country. At the moment, there are so many Ghanaians outside Ghana who have achieved or who have learned a lot of things. They find it difficult to go back because conditions in Ghana conditions are not appropriate or not conducive to their public good, as was said some time ago, not conducive to the public good. If I say the government, people themselves, who are the government? Is the people. If people will change and recognize that, we must do something to attract those who are outside to come back. I'm sure that if something can be done to attract people back, within 10 years, the effect will be as equal as the 54, 57 years that we've had independence. If we can get the half of the people in the diaspora to go back and work for 10 years, Ghana will be saved. And if you need assistance, you can stretch, to ask the government or any other organizations. But the organizations should also help, because I remember one high commissioner saying that when you're here, you shouldn't forget your people at home, which means he doesn't convince you to go home, but stay and work and send some home. We should start changing that attitude. We should start, the more we help people at home, the more we live to work. Instead of going home, we have this responsibility, you have this responsibility, so you don't need to go home. But if you know that you have to go home, and the money you send home is to prepare you to settle in at home, that's better than staying here. We can't be here and after so many years still be slaves here. When you think of the European citizens, EU citizens coming here, and we don't get any chance at all in getting the type of work we are specialized in, or we are any good work, that's not good. When we also have something at home, we have a great deal. When you talk about, how great is Ghana, Ghana is great, only we are not making use of what we have. Legacy is one thing. Legacy is not necessarily being left with a pot of gold, but what you do with that gold, how you handle it, how much work you do with it to multiply it, and then leave it to your children or your grandchildren. That is what legacy is. There is something else to which I have learned, and it's society develops, or a civilization develops when people plant trees under which they will never sit. On the face of it, it talks about tree and say taking a shelter under a tree. But to me, it means more than that. It means giving. It means doing. It means planting something in somebody's character or somebody's life that you don't need to, like susu, to take the benefit, but you do it, and in future, the person also gains and gives to others. And if we will have that spirit in Ghana, where we even replant our timber trees, we replant the trees in our farms instead of just cutting. And now even Ghana is going to start importing timber. And that wasn't what our ancestors left us. We were the #1 timber growing country. And today we've lost all, but that's not good. If we start replanting timber, it's going to be wonderful. We won't be as we are now. Society or civilization flourishes when people plant trees under which they will never sit. It takes about 100 years for a timber to mature. And by that time, you're already dead. So if you think that it's because of the shelter or to cut it and sell it, that's why you are planting it, you are wrong. But if you plant it knowing that somebody else, you want the civilization to flourish, so you plant it, then you have love for your country, then you have love for your ancestors, your descendants. That is, apart from it's the same as the legacy. Legacy when you are given anything or you are left anything, you look at after it properly and then increase on it if you can, produce more and leave it. And that's what is. But if the colonial people came to build high court, offices, proper ministry offices, and we don't take care of them, we don't maintain them, I don't think we have the word maintenance in our Ghanaian dictionary. We do not maintain the way we should. Otherwise, we wouldn't have trouble. We won't spend money on maintenance, waiting after years when the things collapse before we repair them. It's the way that we're going, but we can wake up and correct. We come back to the correct way.
Mr. Bunner possesses an incredible, inspiring enthusiasm. After my insightful conversation, I feel like I've been immersed in the Nkrumah spirit, a kind of born-again Nkrumahist. The relationship between storytelling and reminiscence was an honourable pleasure. I found Mr. Bunner's achievements totally fascinating. However, I'm struggling to understand how a man of such achievements in photography over 6 decades is not profusely recognised by the Ghanaian establishment. Take Yusuf Karsh, for example, the Armenian-Canadian portrait photographer. Karsh took numerous portraits of key leading figures of his era, one portrait being of Winston Churchill. The bottom line is, you don't take portraits of a head of state and go institutionally unrecognised for it. It is clear that all 3 Ghanaian nationals interviewed all have achieved success within their own right. What is also clear is, one of them does not feel the immediate need to return to Ghana at present, and possesses a sense of uncertainty. Another sees his return to Ghana as not a viable option, and the last of the 3 interviewees strongly feels that Ghanaians in the diaspora should be making plans to return home to Ghana. Collectively, their perspectives on the subject are diverse. All 3 interviewees do sing from the same hymn sheet, however, as it is agreed that yes, Ghana is a beautiful place to live, but she still has some infrastructural concerns.
What I've seen is lawless country.
A lot of Ghanaians look at short term.
We should work hard ourselves and not rely on God all the time.
As night falls, tomorrow I meet with the British-born Ghanaians.